Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about part 2 on self-hosting your very own anonymous blog or website. I'm going to talk a little bit about both today. So we're going to be talking about part 2. If you looked at part 1, I actually have my blog right here. Has this nice, easy to remember domain. So just remember this domain, kind of memorize it, and then you'll be at my blog. Okay, just kidding there. We're actually going to be turning this into a much shorter domain. And by registering it is how we're going to do that. The I2P network has been around since I believe 2003. So it's a very long running project, and it is more decentralized than a lot of other options out there, and for that reason it also uses an address book in order to visit the I2P sites or domains that you're trying to visit. Now, the first thing to know is things will be managed in the tunnel manager. So for hosting a website, for example, if you wanted to install, this web server right here, you could do that, and then you could build a tunnel to be able to reach it on the I2P network. So that would add additional end-to-end encryption between the I2P router on the client who's visiting, and also end-to-end encryption to the actual I2P router for the server itself. So you don't need HTTPS when you host something like this. So that is another option. I could even set up a tunnel for remote SSH, and that's something I might do just as a demonstration, so you can see that you can, not just like how you host an onion for SSH, you could also use I2P for such a thing by using the tunnel manager and creating a new tunnel in the tunnel wizard. So we could talk about that first. So this is my actual blog tunnel I created. So I actually made a tunnel to my blog, and what it is Railroad Blog is a plugin for I2P Java version, and if you go ahead and simply paste the link into the plugins as shown in part 1, it'll automatically install and create a base 32 for people to visit. And there's also a local host access. So if you look at the bottom left hand side of my screen, you'll see it is running and it is headed to port 7672 on localhost. Now I could make that reachable as well for any type of server by creating a new tunnel. So I can easily do that in the tunnel manager here. So we can see that I created a tunnel to go to my blog. That's not necessary for Railroad, but it's something I wanted to do and test out. And so I did. And we can also turn this into a much shorter domain. So we're going to be doing that as well. So if you go to this preview, it shows at the bottom left, it is the base 32 address. So if I were to go and visit it, you would see the base 32 address right here. Now with the tunnel manager, if you want to create a new tunnel, go to the tunnel wizard here. So first hit tunnel manager, then go to tunnel wizard. And when we do this, we need to decide, are we making a client or a server tunnel? Well, because we're self-hosting, we're going to make a server tunnel. Now if I had installed this web server running on port 80, I'm going to use that as an example, and SSH as an example. SSH tends to run on port 22, and so I may just make an SSH tunnel. Now this is going to allow you to access it anywhere using I2P privately and anonymously, as long as you don't share that address publicly. So if you share the address publicly, of course it's no longer going to be as anonymous because you've already linked it wherever you share it. So if you share it on your YouTube or your Twitter, obviously that is going to link that blog or website to your Twitter or social media account that you shared it on. So keep that in mind if you're planning to host an anonymous blog or website, that where you share it is going to link back to wherever it is and whatever account it is you shared it on. Same with the information that you decide to share on your anonymous blog. If you share personal identifiers, of course, that could link back to you. So you keep all of these things in mind. This is a great option if you're a journalist or an activist who wants to share information with others around the world and doing it with the potential for anonymity. So it's an excellent option for that. So when we go back to our tunnel manager, we select the server tunnel, then we go to next. At this point, we're going to need to decide on the type of tunnel. So we have a server tunnel, which means that we're going to be self-hosting something. The server tunnel is for self-hosting something. And so if we wanted to host our own IRC network, we could do that with an IRC tunnel. Now, we're going to talk about hosting a website. So we'll go ahead and do that. So we're doing the HTTP tunnel. Assume we installed that web server. So this is if you want to make a tunnel to something that you're self-hosting, be it a web server, or you can even lead it back to the Railroad blog on localhost 7672. Now, if any of this doesn't make sense or sounds confusing, leave a comment and I'll do my best to answer your question. So we're going to go ahead and go with the HTTP tunnel. And when we do that, we'll click Next. We're just going to build a copy of it for the sake of this tutorial. So what this is going to do is it's going to lead back to whatever port I decide to put in next. So if I'm self-hosting a web server on port 80, I would use port 80. Since I'm not doing that, and of course we want it to be accessing our local host because we're self-hosting our server, we need to put local host because it's connecting to ourself. And it's allowing the world to access it through the I2P network. Now, keep in mind that Railroad blog runs on 7672. And so I'm going to put 7672 here. And when I do that and hit next, it would save it and create the tunnel that I already had showed you. So it's as easy as that to create the tunnel. It then becomes accessible and you'll see it in your tunnel manager, and this is exactly what it'll look like. Then you can start the tunnel, you can save it so it starts at every I2P startup, and the next step is we're going to try and make it easier to remember. And to do that, we'll simply take the name we would like to make it, type it in here, and then we can hit save. And at the next step, what we'll do in order to actually register it is click on registration authentication. Right here is where we'll find it, and this is what we need to copy right here. Copy this, right click, copy it. Now go to reg.i2p, and what we're going to do is we're going to put that auth string right here, just simply pasting it. And then what we need to do is we need to type in a little bit of information about this domain. So we'll do that here. And when we hit submit, it will then submit what we registered as. So if you note that because I had saved the right to privacy.i2p, it was added into this auth string. So if you see, auth stands for authentication, for adding the host. So once we do this, this is only an optional additional step you can take. So you don't have to register it to get the short domain. But if you want something nice and easy to remember that you can share with others, this is what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to go to reg.i2p and you're going to paste that auth string in here. Now, before you do that, of course, you need to make sure you had typed in the right to privacy.i2p, and that is saved in my blog tunnel. Now, I could also host a Apache or other type of web server like this, and we could actually create a tunnel to that. So we could self-host any type of website. It doesn't have to be a blog based on Railroad, but I think Railroad's an excellent option because it gets you started quickly and it's instantly available, and then you have that option to register later on for a short, easy to remember domain. So for example, if, say, I wanted my site to be asdf.i2p, if someone tries to visit it and I haven't registered it, well, then you're going to see website not found in address book. And then, of course, it's going to try and use what's called a jump service helper after that. So you'll click on one of these and it'll try to find it. And if it does, it'll actually allow you to add it to your address book. So I2P uses address books. It's another great way. It further decentralizes things on the network. And so that's how you would do it. That's how you would register for a short domain. It may take some time to show up, but once it does show up, you'll be able to visit it and share it with others. And after you've registered it, you should be able to find it and you should be able to visit it. So if I go to my site, now that it has been a while since I first registered it, if I go to right2privacy.i2p, well, look at that. As quick as that, my blog is showing up. And now I can share right2privacy.i2p with anyone I want. And I don't have to share it if I don't want to. So you can keep certain I2P domains to yourself. You don't necessarily have to share it with everyone. But of course, if you register a short domain, it's going to appear on the list of registered domains. So that is something to keep in mind. But you can also use the original base 32 address if you don't want to register a domain, a short domain. And that's how you do it. It's as easy as that. It's really a lot easier than it may sound. I know there's a lot of options in I2P, and so sometimes I know that gets some people a little overwhelmed, and so some people don't get into it as much because it's not as point and click for some things as, say, Tor browser is for just simply opening it up. But there is a Windows package that has the easy setup for I2P and browser. So go ahead and check that out if you're a Windows user. And another nice thing about I2P Plus is you have all of these sites that come on it. So a lot of popular sites can come on it. And if you want to further explore, check out Not Bob's site. He's got a blog. You can check out all of the stats on I2P sites, and you can actually see just released today or yesterday is actually the most requested sites on the jump helpers. So if you want to find out what sites are popular, you can take a look at Not Bob's list there. You can also take a look at their stats over on their site, which is right here, and you can see all of the different sites and their uptime, downtime. As well, they also, like I said, they have a blog and they actually review a lot of great I2P sites. So if you want to learn more about it, you can also help support Not Bob's work by hitting the donate button here. That's optional, but of course I'm sure they'd appreciate it. And they seem to review a lot of I2P sites. So if you're interested in finding new I2P sites, definitely take a look over at Not Bob's site. And I do want to encourage people to check out the I2P Plus because I think it's the perfect place to start for anyone. I use all three. I mean, I have a Java I2P Plus. I have I2PD on single board computer. And I enjoy using them all. They all have their own strengths. For example, the lighter I2PD can work well on a low resource, low RAM single board computer. Whereas if you want maximum amount of options and customizations, well, the Java I2P Plus right now, I don't think it can be beat. And a lot of great work has been done by Zed on that. So definitely appreciate this I2P Plus setup. And you can also get an anonymous email, so that's pretty cool too. And you can also check out my earlier stuff if you're into torrents. Definitely take a look at my I2P torrenting. I definitely think you guys will find that useful. Alright guys, so to rehash, with the actual Railroad anonymous I2P based blog, you simply go to your manage plugins, and when you do that, you'll be able to install it. So this was covered in part 1. Then go to IDK's site and paste the link in and go ahead and hit install plugin, and also follow the rest of the instructions on IDK's Git repository. And after you've done that, it'll download it, automatically install it, and it'll become accessible right here. Now, it'll also give you a B32 address, a base 32 address, so you'll also be able to manage it that way. And also in your .i2p directory, so if you go into terminal and you go into .i2p, your home /i2p /plugin /railroad, and when you go into there, you'll be able to find the public file that has your base 32 address. So if you want to give that out, if you don't want to register a shorter domain, you don't have to. So that's one way to find it. Then you could also go to your tunnel manager. You can create another tunnel. This is completely optional, remember. So you really only need the base 64 and the code, the auth code, to be able to register a domain. So as you can see, mine is right here. I just went through the tunnel creation process with you guys, and if I click on this, it takes me to my base 32 address of my blog. But in order to get it to be the short domain, you need to go to reg.i2p. You go to http reg.i2p, and I just covered this. It's very easy to do. You simply go into your tunnels, and when you click on the tunnel you want to register, go to the registration authentication after you type in the desired short name, hitting save, then go to this, copy this for adding the host, copy there, go to the reg.i2p, click add new, add and paste this code into the actual space for it, and then type in the description. As I just showed, it's very easy to do. Within a day or a couple days, it should be accessible to others, and if it isn't, you'll see a page like this. It'll show up and say not found in address book. Easy enough. You can go to not Bob, you can go to reg and jump helper. So all of these are 3 different jump helper options. So anytime something's not in your address book, you'll want to click on one of these to see if they have it. And then you can add it easily to your address book just by following the links that they offer to you. So it's very easy to do. It's just not very well documented out there. And because of that, that's what we have. And I'm hoping this video helps get more I2P anonymous websites on the internet. So like I said, if you want to host anything on the I2P network, go to the tunnel manager, go through the tunnel wizard, use a server tunnel, then set the port that you're hosting it on. If it's going to be a website, use an HTTP tunnel. It's going to ask you what kind you want to use. You can also install a web server if you choose to self-host on something else, any type of website you want to build, just like any other website. You can install Apache or one of these other web servers, and then you can build a tunnel to port 80 instead of mine, which goes to Railroad 7672. So it's as easy as that. I'd love to know if you get this up and running. If you have trouble with it, I'd also love to know your experience with that. So if you're having trouble, leave a comment. So that's how you do it. That's what you do to start a new tunnel, create a new tunnel. Then you can optionally register your address by clicking on here, saving the domain you would like it to be, hitting save, go to registration authentication, copy this, go to reg.i2p/add, paste in here, put a description, submit it, and there you go. You've got a site, and you'll be anonymous as you make it. So sharing identifiers, of course, is going to link back to whatever identifiers you share. If you don't share identifiers, well, if you share the site with others, of course, that links back to you sharing it. So keep these things in mind. I think journalists could really make use of this kind of setup to be able to share information anonymously without having to reveal their sources and otherwise. So activists can also make great use of I2P. It's been around since 2003, so it definitely has been around. And that's a big reason I'm covering it as well, not only because it has amazing benefits, but it's also a long-running project. I also plan to cover topics like Freenet in the future, but I2P is something special, and I really like it because they do have a focus on anonymity. To me, that is a key. If you focus on anonymity, it can be anything you want. You can make an anonymous site, you can make a public site. You have unlimited options at your disposal when you have anonymity as an option. That's what I have today, guys. Make sure to follow the blog over at buymeacoffee.com/politictech. And now you can follow me on the I2P network at righttoprivacy.i2p, and you'll see I'll be posting posts there as well. So make sure to follow over there. And if you had any trouble with this, leave a comment. I'd love to know where you got stuck, and maybe I can answer a question for you. So guys, make sure if you want to support this, there's plenty of options over here at the bmc.link/politictech. There's commissions. I am also offering laptops in the US. But really the best way to support this is just sharing these posts and videos. That's a free, completely free, easy way to support this kind of content and let me know that people appreciate it. It's just simply share a link, post it on social media, help get the word about I2P out there. Thanks, guys. Make sure to share, like it, subscribe, comment, and I will be back later with more on I2P, how to protect your security and privacy. Now it's supposed to